How you doing, Kevin?
Good. You're looking very bright and happy. There's a lot of yellow going on. It's nice. I like it.
Uh, yes, this is my real life warm filter.
Yeah, looks good. How are things?
Oh, things are fine. Things are
Nice.
fine. We're now in the third week of October, and
Crazy.
okay, I'm knocking on wood now. Nobody's been sick yet, which that far into the school year without some kind of horrible respiratory illness getting shared around. Feels like win.
That's great. And then,
How are how are you?
good. I had a really early meeting at 7:30 my time. So I'm like, I need a nap soon.
Feels like midday, right? Hey, Gretchen.
Hey,
Hey,
Richard.
how's it going?
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
How are you?
Pretty good. Um, we've moved out of our last Airbnb and bopped around to a few hotels and are in a new Airbnb through tonight, or we check out tomorrow morning, bop to another hotel, but then we get to be back in this Airbnb for the first 10 days of that stretch in one room, and then the rest of the time for the next 5 weeks back in this room. So
Okay.
getting it sorted.
You're in London for a year? About?
Just 3 months.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was like, oh man, are you gonna be doing that for?
Oh my God. No. I mean, we were supposed to be in one place, but it turned out to most likely have black mold. So
Whoops.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And then, so we haven't started looking for accommodation for the next, not quite 3 month stretch next semester or quarter. They do like kind of quarters. But we'll be home for a month in between, and that is what I'm really excited about.
Is that during like the Christmas time, December?
Yeah, we fly home on December 15th, and then Tesley's quarter starts up on January 14th. So we'll probably come back like the 12th or something.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to vacation days too.
Hey, do you guys know how with our contracts, it said, I just read through it again today, and it said that like Public Lab has to approve if you go over, or any expenditures over, the weekly amount. And I was wondering, so have you guys ever like billed lower than the equivalent of those 2 week stretches and then higher? And did you have to like go get pre-approval?
I haven't done that.
So I billed lower one pay period just because there was a variety of things all happening in a week. And I just asked Stephanie if it was a problem, and she said it was not.
Okay.
So, but that was not really in advance because it was not anything I had planned. So, the over, I've had one or two that were like 20 minutes over or something. I just throw whatever's in my toggle in there, and that's not been an issue either.
Okay.
But there definitely have been weeks where I sort of like stopped on Thursday because I used all my hours, and I'm not sure what the process is.
Yeah.
If it would be where it would actually might be helpful to plan to go over. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'd be good for us to talk about that and like have a process. Because I would like to kind of shift things on a couple of different weeks. Hi, Parna.
Hi, Aparna.
Hi,
Do you guys
Aparna.
want to start on the sysadmin hiring since we're all here?
Well, I know Dan's not going to be here, but is Rob going to be here?
Oh yeah, but I meant like there's some like logistical stuff, and then
Ah, okay.
the last thing I could just ask Rob would come from.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Let's go ahead.
So I guess the first Aparna. Oh, Rob's here.
Also, hello, Rob. Not just Rob's here.
No. Yeah. we were gonna start on the admin stuff, but I guess we'll just go through the agenda now.
Okay, Gretchen, you want to start the analyst updates?
Thank you so much for participating in the visioning call on last Friday. I thought that was, or visioning and goal setting. I thought that was very productive, and I was glad to see a lot of like overlap in goals and foci. And Jason, I realized later that I had only like sent in the call-in on the team channel as opposed to like on the public channel. So my apologies if that interrupted your ability to join.
No, it was at a time that was outside of my availability.
Oh, okay. Well, so there's also gonna be a follow-up for the folks that couldn't make it. Anyway, so I thought was really useful. So, and part of what that's leading to is this streamlining that we've been trying to do for a while, but everyone kept feeling like we don't really know what our focus is. So how can we streamline? And which I totally agree with. So we're still kind of in the process of like, do we narrow the domains that we're like actively, a physical human is looking at, or just how are we don't quite have the, we don't have the capacity to do as much as we had been doing. And like something that I've been learning is that like one analyst just kind of was like, by the way, I haven't been able to do it for like, I guess it's like 6 weeks. And he's like, not sure that he will be able to. And I was like, oh, I would have really loved to know that, like to reassign that domain or do it myself. But anyways, it's just like capacity is a real issue. And so thinking about how are we going to narrow things down, but haven't really fleshed out by what criteria. And, anyway, so that's still in progress. And it's kind of a slow process. So I wouldn't say it's blocked, but it's slow. But I do think that Friday's meeting, I think, was a big help, that it was clear that so many people wanted to focus on dissemination and making things public. And so, which I think again does point to like, if we want people to be thinking about how to make things public, we also need people to have time to do that. And so fewer people on the actual monitoring. Okay, that's basically it for me.
Okay, dev updates. Rob?
So I shipped the retry and back off stuff for the differ, so hopefully that will drastically improve the stability and success of our pre-analysis pipeline. We'll see. Shipped some fixes to the copy page rate task that has been sitting around on my disk for a really long time, and I realized that probably nobody could use it. So I shipped those, updated the diff colors via config instead of in code, since it's kind of speculative. If analysts are still happy with them after a while or feel like they're an improvement, then we'll make those the defaults unless we think they should change to something else. So I think that's a good process so that we're not constantly changing the default values, especially since other people are using the differ now. And not just us. So it's not just like changing the default values only affects us. And basically, I didn't have any time to fix the sorting bullshit in the analyst sheets. So that's still in progress. It's not ready to merge yet. although it's running in productions. And trying to stay on top of monitoring the Wayback issue. We can't pull in any data from Wayback for the past week because their systems are not indexing that data, or they lost a big chunk of their index and they have to rebuild all of it. And so as long as it's unindexed, it is unfindable. And if it is unfindable, we cannot import it. And then also didn't have much time this week to improve all the general Wayback importing stuff. We did find a few issues other than the other stuff we knew about based on a Slack conversation with Eric. Basically, we are intentionally fairly strict about what kind of stuff we will import from the Internet Archive. And if it's giving us back answers that are kind of fuzzy, we don't really accept them because we don't know if that's entirely accurate. But we also know that it gives us back kind of fuzzy answers in a whole lot of cases. And it turns out that it is giving us back fuzzy answers in enough cases that it basically has never captured EPA.gov/climate change. And I think our conclusion on that was basically that we need to just accept answers that are a little bit more fuzzy because we can't accept that we can't get a snapshot of climate change. So trying to find a slightly smarter way to loosen that. And so we got to do that, as well as all the other, get it hopefully slightly faster and more reliable. All the same stuff I've been working on. There's a switching from Yarn to NPM for the UI that is sitting in review, and basically all the same up next stuff, which I didn't get to either from last week.
Okay, and for me, got the sysadmin position posted to Code for Lib, yay, which is one of our items of discussion. I had some sort of direction. I was looking at taking the web monitoring kube to get it ready for publication, and there was some conversation happening with Dan, which I was waiting on, but I realize now that I should probably just go with it because I think what I have is fine and a reasonable solution. And I know Dan is often doing things, so that I had that as blocked, but I think we should just move ahead. This is my first day this week to work. I basically left off on Friday, having done some Minikube work to get a local dev environment that nicely lets me stand up all three things simultaneously: UI, DB, and processing, and point them at each other. I don't have all three pieces running in it yet, but I think that's going to be the happiest dev environment for me, at least right now. And I'm not blocked on anything, but I do need to wrap up my input on the incident reports from our launch, because there's some outstanding, like I put down my log of stuff that I did, but haven't added in any of the sort of like lessons learned or, that kind of good wrap-ups work. That's all I have. So we can just jump straight on to other discussion items.
I want to check in on the status of setting up Elasticache for the queues, but Dan was going to do it, and Dan's not here, so I don't know if there's any point in talking about this. And you just addressed the incident reports, so that's all the things that I put on here.
Okay, so let's talk about sysadmin hiring.
I can leave that.
Oh, I was just going to say right quick, I didn't ask anybody to take notes. I just realized maybe Gretchen, could you take notes on this part? Cool.
So Aparna volunteered to help us with the hiring, to help with some of the logistics. Yeah, thanks, Aparna. And so there's when we would say we'd start reviewing applications, so that we'll put that in like the audit response. Do we have a general sense of when we think we'll start reviewing applications? Butchin or Jason?
What day was it officially posted?
Last Friday, Jason? Was that one?
Yeah, it went up to Code for Lib on Friday. Yeah.
But we haven't posted it anywhere else, which we want to.
Maybe like the Monday after 2 weeks. So like that was the 19th. Then there's the 26th, and then there's the 2nd. So maybe like Monday the 5th.
In about 2 weeks, we can say we'll start reviewing the application. Okay. So then Aparna, did you see the spreadsheet with all the other different places to post? I talked to Steph, and so some of those places cost money to post. And she said because it's a one-off expense, somebody would have to pay for it and be reimbursed. If nobody's comfortable within the committee to do that, I think she'll figure out a way to do it. But is anybody comfortable doing that?
I am totally happy to do that.
Okay, cool. And then the last, go ahead, Bart.
Who's actually posting them? Is Jay, you'll post them to the ones you're paying for, I guess, that need paying for? Do I post to the rest, or was one of you on those? Like, do you have to be on those lists to post to them? So I'm not completely clear about that.
That's a great question. Yeah, it seems like probably the most efficient. Just if it's just like you create an account, each one of them, it works a little differently. But yeah, if you create an account and plug in your billing in that account, I'm happy to post on those. Obviously, Code for Lib was the only one I was already familiar with. So other than having looked at that spreadsheet, I don't really know the process. But I would be happy to allow as much of the legwork to go somewhere else to be done by Aparna where possible.
So it sounds like any paid ones that we want to use, Jason can do, and then any free ones Aparna can do.
Ooh, actually, I have an idea. Aparna, I could also just share via LastPass payment information with you, and I just trust you to not take me for all I'm worth. That's fine.
Okay.
Because I'm afraid if I'm doing legwork on several of them, that it might get slowed down. So.
Where's the posting? Like, where is the actual?
Oh, I'll send that to you. The actual job description. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And can I get clear, if we start reviewing it November 5th, but that's not the final date for submission, right? Like, do we want to have a closing date, or we don't want to have a closing date?
Yeah, I don't think we want to have a closing date right now.
Okay.
And then just something that I was just curious about, because I imagine that this position kind of become a full stack, like a person who has a lot of different experience. And Rob might have some good input here, but was there any gaps that we would want this person to fill, like certain experience that might prioritize over others? So the question I was like, if we have two people hypothetically that were qualified, but one had more React experience and the other had more Python experience, would we want to prioritize one person over the other, or I don't know.
Well, it's supposed to be a sysadmin job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea what the job description is, but I would think that we shouldn't really care too much about their React experience one way or the other in that example scenario.
My feeling is, the biggest strengths that we could have are somebody who's familiar with managing like access control and life cycling of people's accounts, those kind of things. Like for instance, in AWS, we're not really checking or expiring out people's access to different roles in AWS or forcing them to rotate API keys or that kind of stuff. Not as much the code part, but more just the management of our use of the platform.
Yeah, yeah. Just because I guess some of the job description is like legacy because it talks about like, oh, this is the stack we're using. So then we'll get interest from people with like different areas of the stack, and I wasn't sure if we wanted to prioritize parts of the stack.
Well, I mean, I think it would definitely be beneficial if somebody has worked with Kubernetes and Docker before.
Okay.
If we're going to have them, and of course, if they're familiar with version control, if we're going to have them end up touching parts of the deployment pipeline, any experience there, I think, could be really beneficial.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Did anybody else had any concerns? That's the stuff that I wanted to talk about. Gretchen or Aparna, did you guys have anything else to add? Nope. Okay. Oh, go ahead, Aparna.
Where are the applications coming in? Is there an email address or?
Yeah, if you want to share, you can share in the channel your LastPass, and then so Jason can send you his info, and I'll send you the credentials for the email, the Gmail account that we set up.
So can you not just send me, like I have LastPass, so what kind of information do I need to share for my LastPass? Like just my email address?
Yeah, just the email address to actually send to your account.
This rule is supposed to be across all Edgy, not just web monitoring, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because otherwise I feel like we don't. I mean, we would love some expertise on some of this stuff, but also I don't feel like we have a lot of sysadmin work to fill somebody's time. But if it's all Edgy, then there's lots more to manage and do and concretize. So.
Yeah, I feel like basically somebody thinking about the stuff that gets talked about in tools, like it would actually be great. This is like not what we're doing already, but like if we were doing LastPass Enterprise, for instance, and using that for managing our LastPass shares, like having somebody who's managed that before would be awesome. So again, just thinking about our sort of just access management for our cloud platforms and our cloud tools.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I was thrown off by like the other stuff that we had put into the because we were talking mainly about the web monitoring stack, but if we reframe it, just thinking about like the tools across Edgy, then it's an easier way to think about it. Yeah, that's what we should be looking for. So that makes sense. Okay.
Well, does anybody?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, like, another ideal thing. It's a little bit outside of what would normally be sysadmin, but somebody in that role could do for Edgy is like continue to work on Hulky.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If they have JavaScript expertise.
Yeah. I was also thinking like WordPress maybe too, because the WordPress site is totally out of date and could need help.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like I think the things here are like help make sure that WordPress site is running well and managed well, like help make sure our DNS stuff is managed well. Give us some sanity around email, because I feel like that has been a point of confusion at many points for many people. Like all of that sort of stuff is well within like I think what we would want and need this sort of person to be doing. And all of that is like outside of web monitoring, but like super valuable.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Rob.
Well, that takes us through the agenda. But does anybody have? We've got 6 minutes left on our scheduled time. Anybody have any other things they would like to bring up to this audience before we go? Okay. Well, forever hold your peace until next time.
Just a quick thing.
Oh, yes.
I'll try and make it to the analyst meeting tonight, but just keep us posted on feedback or thoughts about the diff colors.
Yeah. And the priority. So far, it sounds like people like both the new diff colors and the priority column. But yeah, I'll just make that a point of question tonight.
A quick question. When I'm looking at the job description, it just says web monitoring and scanner. Like, it doesn't actually describe the other things that you talked about, like just doing website stuff and email. And so, does that need to be expanded, or it's fine as it is?
I think within the task, it talks about like across edgy too. So it's like, I mean, you know, it's like open-ended. It'll be described within interviews and stuff like that.
Sure.
They don't know what a scanner is anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Guys, well, I think that's a wrap. And if I don't see you before, I'll see you next week.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.